This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Pei Zayin. Tonight's year should be a schos for full shleimer of Chayim Moshe ben Esther Rizel Yudamir ben Nikir men with Vega Chayim Sasham Sim Rizel Sor Bas Gnendel Ita Basiyam Bas Chayim Sor Yisrael ben Middle as a parent of Shavlei Shabbat Bas Nami Shavlei Chana Rafal Zav ben Teriv Shmuel ben Tilo Dinil ben Chana Rizel Malk Milchaya Bas Amina Li Barach Bas Tavia Musa Dina Edel Bas Shena Mindol Simcha Tovia ben Avigail Pasha Svi ben Miri ben Fego Devaira Michel Zipur Nathali Yehuva Besay Sharchali Israel as well as the Zivog Shidach Hagoin for Miriam Bas Esther Shadendol as well as Atalea Bas Ita. We begin a new parak, the 8th parak, as we conclude the final 3 prakim of Masechta Pesachim. We're in about the last home stretch, the last month. Let's begin. Says the Mishnah, Ha'isha bizman shi bebeis baila. A woman, when she's in her husband's household, shachat alea baila, her husband can shech the carbon pesach for her. V'shachat alea avia, or her father can shech the carbon pesach for her. Then she eats from her husband's carbon pesach. Again, basically, we're going to discuss, not again, but we're going to discuss over here how one registers for a carbon pesach. Generally, you register, you write your name down, RSVP, that's my carbon. What if you did nothing? In which cases do we assume that automatically, intrinsically, this is your household? So we have a classic case that where does a woman fall? Does she go in her husband's house or her father's house? So says the Mishnah, case number 1, that as long as she's in her husband's house, her husband checks for her father checks from her, we assume she goes with her husband. However, if the first yantif she goes to spend by her father, then shachla avia. Then if her father shechs for her, v'shachla bayil, her husband shechs for her, then she writes, and now when she went home for the first regel, once she showed that she's also part of her father's household, now she could be either carbon that she wants. Case number 3 in the Mishnah. Yasaim Shishakt love abatrasim a yasaim that the abatrapis were the bezdin appointed trustees shluchim of bezdin, so they shechted for him 2 different ones shechted from a carbon pesach. Yacham here shehu writes that he chooses whichever carbon he wants. Eved shal shnei shotfim, if there's a servant of 2 shotfim lo yacham shal shneihem, he cannot eat from either of them because neither one is full ownership over him. And Rashi even points out even if one tries to do it on his own, it doesn't work unless they both agree to do it on behalf of one of them, because each one has ownership. If it's partial Evan and partial free man, he cannot eat from his master because part of him is free, as we will see in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Shmas Mina, we learn from our Mishnah, Yesh Breira. Seemingly our Mishnah teaches us a rule that we've seen many times, and our Mishnah of the fact that it says that the woman is allowed to choose whichever carbon she wants, sounds like we say Yesh Breira, that we're allowed to retroactively decide something, because that sounds like right now, at the time of the Shechita, when her husband and her father shechted the carbon for her, did she say anything? It sounds like not. It sounds like afterwards she says, I want to be in this one. And we said, seemingly the Mishnah, that's enough. So it's a raya, clear raya in the Mishnah, the yesh breira. Says the Gemara, no raya, my razeh. What does it mean? If she wants, it means b'shas shchita. It means during the slaughtering, during the shchita, that's when she decides. For a minute, says the Gemara, I'll ask you a question. Ishla regular rishon echels mishal aviyah. The first yantiv, she eats from her father. Mikan veilach, from here and further. Right to echels mishal aviyah, right to mishal baila. So what do we see in the brisa? That front at the first yantiv, she eats from whichever one she wants. After the first yantiv, what happens? Rat to mishal aviyah, rat to mishal baila. What did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said that on the first yantiv she does whatever she wants. After, but on other parts, the Mishnah began, she eats from her husband. Over here it seems not that way. Over here it seems after the first yantiv, that's when she chooses. Says the Gemara, like Kasha, fundamental difference between the Brisa and between our Mishnah. Kan and this Brisa's Beradufa Lelech is where she's eager to go back, that she shows that she wants to be part of her father's household. And therefore, since she already has shown that she wants to be there, that's the reason why automatically she shouldn't be allowed to choose, and she's partially part of her father's household, and therefore she chooses which one she wants. Kad, but in our Mishnah, B'Sheina Redufa, she never showed that eagerness to go back home, and therefore we normally assume, before she spends that first yantiv in her father's house, we assume she's part of her husband, and therefore what's she going to do? She's going to be included in her husband. So again, in the Mishnah that says she's straight up part of her husband's household, that's when she's living with her husband. She hasn't shown any necessary reason to go back to her father. The Bryce is showing that no, as we'll see more in the Gemara, which reasons, but she showed that she spends time in her father's household. etc., etc. T'chsev, as we see in a pasuk, Azi Isi Be'inav, then it was in his eyes, Kemaitze Shalom, like one who found to be perfect. And we explained this brayso that what does this mean? V'amar Rav Yechlan Kekalo Shenimsa Shlema B'Beis Chamia, like a kala that's found to be full and perfect in her father-in-law's house. So what does she do? What does she do? She wants to tell someone about it. Redufa Leich La'agid Shvacha B'Beis Avia, and she wants to go back to her parents' household to tell them how much her father-in-law, how much her husband loves her. So that's one of the cases, meaning we're showing over here. Then we said Redufa Lelich, she wants to go back to her father. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's any Shalom Bayis issue. No, not at all. She wants to go back home and tell her parents of the wonderful marriage, of the wonderful in-laws that she has. Kidduch Sev, now once we showed one pasuk, a pasuk of Shir Hashirim, a pasuk from Hosea. Incorrect. I'm sorry, I was right the first time. A pasuk from Shir Hashirim, a pasuk referring to Klal Yisrael and Hashem, of referring to a marriage. Now we go into Darshan, and this is really going to take us into a Nagadata, a sidebar discussion that's going to go from right now for the rest of the day all the way through Amud Beis. So let's see. It says in the Gemara Kidduch Sev, it says in a pasuk, Vaya Bayoma will be on that day. No Hashem says Hashem Tikrai Isha. You're going to be called Tikrai Isha. I'm sorry, no Hashem, Tikrai Isha, Veloy Tikrai Li Oid Baili. You're going to be called my husband, and you're not going to be anymore called Baili, which refers to a more of a harsh language, refers to, you're not going to be any longer called a master. Like a kala in her father-in-law's house, like a kala beis avia, and not like a kala in her father's house. Meaning, this is similar, like we just said before, that she goes from Iris into Nisuin, she goes from being in her father's house to fully in her husband's household, fully being accepted by her husband's household, and that's what the pasuk here is referring to. Now we continue. The pasukim say, "Salanu kitana." We have a little sister, but for shadayim einla, she has no shadayim, she has no breasts. And we explain this pasuk on Rabbi Yechanan. Zu Elim, this is the city of Elim Shazascha Lilmoid. They were able to learn Torah. However, they didn't teach Torah, and the breasts obviously are the mashal for giving off something that they weren't able to give off Torah. Ani chayma v'shadai. The pasuk continues, I'm a wall, and my shadai, my breasts are like migdalis, like towers. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, ani chayma, I'm a tower, zu Torah, that refers to the Torah. Shadai migdalis, ilu talmidei chachamim, that refers to talmidei chacham, again, showing that it gives off to others. V'rava amar, ani chayma, zu kenatzi Yisrael, v'shadai migdalis, ilu bati knisiyais, ubati medrasha, is the place of learning. Amar Rav Zutra, continuing the theme of drashas about a kala, Rav Zutra bar Tovia Amarav. What's the meaning of the pasuk? Asher banenu kineti asher banenu kineti, for our sons are like saplings. Megudalim bin urayam, nurtured from the youth. Ben Isayim kizaviyais, our daughters are like corners. Mechutavos, crafted etamnis in the form. Crafted in the form Heichel of the Beis Hamikdash. And now we darshan and we explain that pasuk. Asher baninu kinetiyim, our sons are like saplings. Elu bachuri Yisrael, the young bachrim shlotamu tamcheit. They never did have era. But I'm saying because our daughters are like corners. Elu besulais Yisrael. These are the young besulais, the virgins that never had relations. Sha'ik dais b'schem lebayleim. They close up their openings to their husbands. Either this means that they tell their husbands when they're in nida and they're not allowed to sleep with them. Or this means that before they get married, they make sure not to sleep with anyone. The pasuk says, they were filled up like a bowl, like the corners of the mizbeach. Another pasuk that says, Mefikim mizan alzan. Our corners are full, providing from one reaping, one harvest to the next. And now we conclude before the two das mechatavais. What is that referred to? It was crafted. Tavnes eichel, says the Gemara. Elu ve'elu ma'ila aleim. Both of these the Torah considers kilu nivda eichel b'yameim, as if they built the Beis Hamikdash in their days, referring to the wonderful ma'ila of the girls that they kept the halacha between them and their husbands. Says the Gemara. Ivar Devar Hashem. Now we go back again, more psukim referring to Klal Yisrael, to a married woman. Says the Torah, Devar Hashem Shahaya Eloi Shea. It was a word until Yeshaya. Bimei Uzziah, the pasuk continues, days of Uzziah. Yosam, in the days of Uzziah, Yosam Achaz Yechezkiyahu Melech Yehuda. Yechezkiah, the kings of Yehuda. These are the four kings: Uzziah, Yosam, Achaz, and Chezkiah, the four kings of Yehuda. Beperek Echa Nizvu Dal Neviim. That in one time the four Neviim would give over Nevuah. The Gadol Shabakulam, who is the greatest of all these Neviim, Hoshea. Shneimar the pasuk says, Tchilas Dvar Hashem Hoshea. The first word of Hashem was with Hoshea. Says the Gemara, Hoshea Dvar Tchila. Is that true that Hashem speaks with Hoshea? Tchila V'Alemai. For Moshe Rabbeinu until Hoshea, they were married in Nevi'im. Amar Rav Yochanan, what is the show? It was the first of the four Nevi'im that gave Nevuah during that time. And these are the four Nevi'im, like we just saw: Yeshaya, Amos, Umicha. We continue the narrative. Hashem says to Yeshaya, your children sinned. You know, Yeshaya should have responded. Hey, they're your children. Beni. Banechaim, your children, Bnei Chanunechaim, they are the children of your loved ones. Bnei Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, Gilgal Rachamecha Aleim, Moshe should respond to your children, Hashem. Have Rachmanis of them. Loidayo is not enough. Not only did Hashem not say that, Hashem did not try to help Klal Yisrael. El Amr Lefanav, you know what he said? Rabbeinu Shalom, Kol Elam Shalcho, the whole world is yours. Haviram B'uma Cheres, exchange them for a different nation. Chas Shalom, he told Hashem to destroy Klal Yisrael and exchange them. Amar Kadesh Hashem says back to Ishaya, what should I do with this old man referring to Ishaya? You know what I'm going to tell him? Take a woman who's a Zaina and have illegitimate children from her. And afterwards, even those illegitimate children, I'll tell you, send them out. Even children from a Zaina, an illicit union, are you going to be able to send those kids away? Afani says, Hashem, you want me to send away my children, my beloved children, Klal Yisrael Shenemar. And now we learn out from the Pesukim, where we see this story that Hashem told Yeshaya to take a wife, take a Zaina, have illegitimate children, and see the pain of a parent losing a child. Shenemar take a woman who is a Zaina, and have children for the Zunim. Now let's just point out a bit of a discussion over here, whether this was a real story, whether Hoshea actually got married, or whether this was all part of the Nevuah, that in the Nevuah, Hoshea at some level got married in the Nevuah and had these children, and the whole thing was one big prophecy. Or if it was a prophecy and he actually did it. Either way, let's see the story. He went and he took Goimer, the daughter of Divloyim. Goimer, why is she called Goimer? Amarav, she called Goimer and Ba. Everyone finished with her, meaning she was the biggest Zaina of them all. Everyone slept with her. Bas Divloyim, as we move along, Talmud Beis. What does that refer to? That what? Diber Ra bas Diber Ra. She was the Diber Ra that everyone had something bad to say about her. Bas Diber Ra, the daughter of someone who everyone had to say something bad about her. Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Shemetuka b'viga kol kitavela. She was sweet in the mouth of everyone, like a fig. Rav Yochanan Amar. Obviously, each one of these more disgusting way of referring to this woman is Zaina. Shakol dashin ba kitvala. Everyone who threshed upon her, everyone slept with her, like a fig. Davar Goimer. Another pshat is, what does it mean? Goimer Amar Rav Yehuda Shebikshu LeGoimer Mamash Yisrael, that they sought to finish off, to get rid of all the money of Klal Yisrael B'Yamen, his days, the days of Hoshea. Rav Yochanan Amar Bazzu v'Gamru. They took it all away, and they did indeed finish off all the wealth of Klal Yisrael. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Gav Melech Aram, that the king of Aram destroyed them by Yisimein Ka'afar Ladosh, and he made them into dirt to trample upon them. Now we go back to the story with Hoshea. So again, he took this woman, this tremendous Zaina, the daughter of Divlayim, as a wife, and he had a child with her. And Hashem said to Yeshaya, Yisrael, call the child's name Yisrael. Why? Because in a little bit, as Demei Yisrael al Beis Yehu. Because in a little bit, I'm going to take Fakadati as Demei. I'm going to take revenge for the blood of Yisrael on the house of Yehu. Vishvati Mamlucha is Beis Yisrael, and I'm going to return the Mamlucha, is the kingdom, to Klal Yisrael. So first he had a son, and he called him Israel. Then he had a daughter, and Hashem said to him, you should call the daughter Kara Shemal, Kara Shema Loy Ruchama. He should call her Loy Ruchama. Ki Loy Oisef Oida Rachem Es Beis Yisrael. Because he's not going to have any more pity, any more mercy in Klal Yisrael. Why not? Ki Nasoi Esa Lahem, that I should forgive them. That was child number 2. And then Hoshea had a third child from the Zaina Vayomer Shemei Lav Kara Shema Loy Ami. Call the child Lo ami, literally not my people. Ki atem lo ami, for you're not my people. V'anochi lo lochem, and I'm not going to be with you. Lachar shenoldu lo shnei banim ubas achas. After he had 2 sons and 1 daughter, he had Israel lo ami and lu rachama. Amalei Kadosh Baruch Hu Shia. Hashem said to Shia, lo yilcha lomod mi Moshe. Should you not have learned from Moshe Rabbeinu? Rabbach, your Rabbi. Shekiv shedibarti imai, when Moshe Rabbeinu would speak to Hashem, Barish b'nei Isha, Moshe Rabbeinu would separate from his wife. Avata, so to you, Shia, but why are you busy sleeping with his Zaina? You should separate yourself from her as you're having a nevuah and talking to me. Amar lo Shia said, everybody tell me what should I do? I have children from her. I can't separate from her. I cannot leave her. And I can't divorce her. Amar like Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says to Shia, and this is the punchline. This is the culmination of why we brought them this whole story. You, Shia, your wife was a Zaina. And you're these illegitimate children. And you don't even know if they're your children. If someone else who slept with this woman. And yet you can't leave them. Yisrael, Shein, B'nei Bechuni, they're my beloved and tested children. B'nei Avram, Yitzhav, Yaakov, Echad, Me'arba, Kinyanim. I'm sorry. And they're one of the 4 acquisitions that I had in the world, and you want me to forsaken them. Now the Gemara pauses in the middle of the story with Isaiah, and the Gemara says, what are these 4 acquisitions? Number 1 was Torah Kinyan Echad. Torah was the first. Hashem acquired the rishis of his way, which was the Torah. Shemayim V'aretz is acquisition number 2. Kinyan Echad T'chsev. Koni Shemayim V'aretz. Beis HaMikdash was Kinyan number 3. Kinyan Echad T'chsev. Harzekanisi Yeminoi Yisrael. Like we just quoted a moment ago, Klal Yisrael was the 4th acquisition. Kinyan Echad T'chsev. Amzukanisi. Now we go back to the narrative that Hashem says to Isaiah, V'ata, and you Amarta, and you told me, God's talking. Havirim Be'uma Acheres. You want me to exchange Klal Yisrael for another nation? Kivan Sheyada Shechata, because we know that they sinned. So Isaiah realized he made a mistake. What did he do? He got up and he davened for himself. Hashem said, what are you davening for yourself? Davening for Klal Yisrael. Because I made 3 gezeros because you, or the 3 gezeros, the 3 children, Yisrael, Lurachamecha, and Luami, each child another curse to Klal Yisrael, so you should daven for them. So Yeshua stood up, nullified the decree, and Hashem began to bless Klal Yisrael. Shenemar, Klal Yisrael will be numerous like the sand in the sea. Luami, and the place that it said Luami, instead of being Luamiatem, instead of Hashem saying you're not going to be my nation, you're going to be my nation forever, the living nation. And we're going to gather together the children of Yehuda, Yisrael, Yaakov together, and they're going to have children, and they'll sow the land, and they're going to have pity upon you. Lo ruchama, the one that was not pity. This refers to the second child, Lu ruchama. V'amarti, and says Hashem, leluami, amiata, leluami. Instead of luami, instead of not being a nation, amiata, you're going to be my nation. We see all 3 of the curses, all 3 of the children was flipped around. This was the story with Isaiah, and how Hashem proved to him and showed him how much rachmanis you have to have in a child. What was to the authority to Rabbanis that it buries its children? There was never a Navi that was not that did not survive the 4 kings in his days. Remember the Pasuk says, the vision of Yeshaya ben Amoitz is that a vision of Yudim Yishlayim, and the Pasuk concludes that there was 4 kings, Uzziah, Yasam, of Chizkiah, the 4 kings of Yehuda. Amar Rav Yechlan, with regards to these 4 kings that each of the Nevi'im had to contend with, what's the reason that Yeravam, the son of Yoash, who was the king of Klal Yisrael, he had this chos to be amongst all the kings of Yehuda, and they, you know why? Shaloi kibel lashon hara. He didn't accept lashon hara about who? Alamos. Minolan, how do we know that? Deimane, Techsiv, how do we know that he was part of the kings of Yehuda? The pasuk says, Dibra Hashem Asher Haya El Eishea ben Ba'ari Bimei Uzziah Yasem Achaz Achziyahu Melech Yehuda, listed as one of the kings. Ubimei Yeravam ben Yoash Melech Yisrael. Okay, very good. Now we know he was one of the kings. First, very white line. How do we know he did not accept lashon hara? The pasuk says, that it's difficult. Kashar alecha. I'm sorry. They conspired against you. The pasuk says, Kiba Amar. Ki koi Amar Amos becherev Yomos Yeravan. Then the sword Yeravam should perish. V'kaimer Amar, and he said Chas v'shalom. Amar Isa Sadikach. It's impossible that he said such a thing. V'Amar, and if he said Maaseloi, what should I do? Shechina Amraloi. The Shechina must have told him. This is where we see that he did not accept lashon hara, and we see how careful we have to be. He was listed as one of the kings of Yehuda for the fact that he did not accept lashon hara. Amar Rav Elazar Afilu b'Shatz Kaisa Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, even when Chas v'Shalom Hashem is angry. Zoiches Rachma, if he remembers his mercy, Shenemar Kilo Oisev Oid Rachem Kilo Oisev Oid Rachem es Beis Yisrael. Rav Yosi Bar Rav Chanina, Rav Yosi Rav Chanina. Rav Yisrael Rav Chanina Amar Mehacha. He learned it out from a different pasuk. What does the pasuk say? Ki nasai asal lahem, that I'm going to forgive them. Again, another pasuk that Hashem has mercy even when He's angry. Why did Hashem exile us amongst all the Gayim? That we should make Geirim amongst us. Shenemar was Ratili Baretz. They're going to sow in the land. Klom Adam Zerei Klom Adam Zerei Saw. Is any person that just plants one saw Elikanes Kamakurim? Why do you plant one saw? So that you could get many saw out of that land. Rav Yechon Amar Me'acha, we see it from over here. V'yechanti at loy ruchama. Rav Yechon Misham Rav Shimon Yochai Ma'idach Seif. What's the meaning of the pasuk? Al tilshain Abed al Adainav Penny Kalecha V'Shamta, that the servant should not, a slave to his master, the servant should not curse his master, and you're going to be found guilty. Uksiv, the pasuk says, Dar aviv yikalel, a generation that the father is going to curse, v'asimay le'tavarich, and you're not going to bless your mother. Misham da'aviv kilel, asimay le'yavarich, I don't understand. You curse your father, so you don't give a bracha to your mother? What are the two connections? Says the Gemara, Misham da'aviv, Misham da'aviv yikalel. Did I skip? Let me go back a second. Dar aviv yikalel v'asimay le'yavarich. Misham da'aviv yikalel, asimay le'yavarich. Al talshain el afilu dar. Sha'aviv yikilel asimay le'yavarich. Al tilshain eved al dainav. He should not slander a slave unto his master. Minalan. May I share? We learned it out from Moshe. Just one comment. Obviously, even though the Gemara says Klal Yisrael was not exiled only to create gerim, we obviously know it's not the most simple thing. To create a ger, complicated halachas, as well as obviously complicated when we're allowed to and when we're not. Let's continue just to get to the two dots. Amar Rav Aishia, Ma'idach Sev, what is the meaning of the pasuk? Sidkois B'Zrayna B'Yisrael, that they were going to tell over the righteous deeds of Hashem that He did for Pizrayne, the open cities of Klal Yisrael. Sedakais HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Yisrael, Hashem did righteousness, Shepizron L'bein Ha'umais, that He exiled us and scattered us amongst the nations. This is what one min. One apostate said to Rav Chanina, "Anan ma'alina meinaychu, we are greater than you." You know why it is about you? That for 6 months you're going to stay there until they're going to destroy all the people in Edom, all the males. Veilu anan, but us, it's naichu gaman kamashani. We're there for many years. Like avdina lechu midi, and we didn't do anything to you. Amar Loi, Rav Chanina responded, like you want, I'm going to give you one Talmud, meaning one of the students are going to come and fight with you, you men. What happened? Because you don't know how to destroy Klal Yisrael. What do you mean? You can't destroy Klal Yisrael because you don't have them underneath your jurisdiction. That which you have control over. Call to the kingdom and let the government destroy them. Amrlei, Gaba Duramoi, he responded by the wall of the Romans. With this we go up and this we go out, meaning this is the very point that we're always bothered by, how we're supposed to live amongst the Goyim. What is the balance over here? And this is where we're going to conclude, and we'll pick up tomorrow from the two dots. Have a fabulous day.